Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting of the Education Committee to order at 6:55, 3 April 2023.
God, thank you for tonight where we can come together and discuss the needs of the county and how we can all do our part to move our county forward. God, we would be remiss if we didn't take a second to pause and just say that we join you in wrapping your arms around those families and our neighbors down in Nashville with the shooting this week. And God, we're just counting our blessings that every one of Sumner County's families gets to go home and hug their kids tonight. God, we pray that every action we have tonight just moves the county forward, and so that those children that we are hugging have a better future and a brighter tomorrow. God, we love you and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Just to allay all suspicions, I was playing tag with the grandsons, and the dog wanted to play too, and so he cut in front of me, and I face planted. It used to look a whole lot worse than this.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Chairman, you're too old to be doing all of that.
Yeah, I know. That's life. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Approval of the minutes for March 6th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And we have two folks that want to talk that have signed up. Joanna Daniels first. Go ahead. Just state your name and your address, please.
So my name is Joanna Daniels. I live in Hendersonville, Tennessee. And two things I want to talk to you about tonight. One, a budget item with the school kit. And then two, the survey. So the school kit is it's an early literacy program that Stephen King brought up on February 21st at a school board meeting. If you go and watch the video starting at 1 hour and 23 minutes, he brought up his concerns with this early literacy program. And one of them was that it talked about rote memorization, saying that it was racist to the core, that it's rooted in white supremacy, and we do that in our schools here. And so what Stephen King asked was that there be a study session on this. And Scott Langford said, yeah, sure, no problem. We don't have to pay this until June. Well then, in March, at the literally 24 hours, 48 hours before the meeting, they said, oh my gosh, we have to vote on this now because we're going to lose the grant. Well, that isn't what Scott Langford said in February. So before you have a budget item, a school kit, and the reason I'm bringing this up to you guys is that, you know, stuff like this I really feel the school board is doing, and it's not right, because me as a citizen, I watched that February 21st, and I was waiting for a study session to come up, and it never happened. And then all of a sudden they put it back on the agenda and they're approving it. And it was on the consent agenda. So there was no talk about it. And stuff like this has to stop at the school board, because still school kit is horrible. It has all kinds of CRT through it, and it's for our early literacy, and it's teaching it's training the teachers. So again, that is something that it's really upsetting to me as a citizen, and I know you guys overlook the budget for the school board. Two, the school surveys. Right now, I've been talking about school surveys since probably July of this past year. I am completely against these school surveys. There's a Safe Schools Act that was put into effect, years ago, and they had a school survey. But that originally was supposed to be for the teachers. It wasn't even supposed to be for the students. And then they decided to do a school survey for the students. These school surveys are like 100 pages long, 100 questions. Some of them are 50 questions. Some of them ask questions like, have you ever done alcohol? Have you ever done drugs? Have you ever done this? And those are leading questions. And these are things that, my mom was a single parent of 4, and she may have done some questionable stuff when she was a single parent, okay? Exactly. And I graduated with honors, okay? And all my brothers and sisters, no kids out of wedlock or anything like this. And these school surveys, 1, it's messing with the kids' minds, okay? And 2, I believe that they're fishing expeditions for what's going on in the houses of these people. And 3, sorry, can't count tonight. And 3, I don't believe they are necessary. Keep the school surveys to the teachers, not to the students. Let the students confide in their parents, not the teachers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have Katie Brown. Sorry, Brown.
Good evening. I'm Katie Brown, and I live in Hendersonville, but I work for the Sumner County Schools here in Gallatin. I actually am here to speak about surveys. I oversee survey administration for the school district. What I've brought here tonight, this is survey results from 2003, and this is from 1999. Mr. Hyde, you probably remember Pat Connor coming to you about student surveys. So this is a long-standing practice. It's data that we use to inform the programming that we have in our schools. It's also data that's used by community organizations such as the Anti-Drug Coalition. I was the director of the Anti-Drug Coalition for a few years before coming to the school district, and an example of one of the things that's asked in the survey of high school students is, if you've used alcohol, where have you gotten that alcohol? One year, the answers were really high on that they were able to purchase it at a retail location. So one of the initiatives that we did in my previous job was to work with local law enforcement on setting up undercover buys, and went in to reinforce that underage sales was illegal, and that survey question has diminished extensively because it used to be pretty easy to purchase alcohol in Sumner County for a minor, and it is no longer. Then we started getting survey answers that adults were providing the alcohol to students' parents in their own home. And so we did an education campaign about the liability that you incur when you provide alcohol to minors in your home. The surveys have 0 personally identifiable information. There is no way to identify an individual student. There's not questions about what's happening in the household. It's all about personal account. There are questions about attitudes, meaning like, do your parents think it's okay for you to drink? But again, that is not something that is personally identifiable at all, and that also leads towards sort of our education pieces. Where do we need to focus our energy? Is that conversations we need to start having younger or older? So all of those questions come from a survey agency that we work with, and the data is always, there's not even any they don't use a student ID number, they don't use anything that could be identified back to them specifically. So that's just in general about our student surveys. If you have questions, I'm going to be here tonight. So thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead and move on to my report. We had a great ad hoc education meeting again on the 17th of March at 6 p.m. for the members and also the public that attended. Got a briefing on the change in population of Sumner County and projections that were moving out a couple of decades into the future so that we could get an idea of where the population was and where possible schools might need to be done in the future so that we're not caught off guard. We had Josh Sudduth, and we need to thank him for doing that informational briefing. We also plan to have Josh back in May, probably fill in some blanks. We're trying to get some information for him so that he can give us a more informed idea of what we need to know as far as that goes, so we can do some accurate planning. The briefing was also open to the public to ask questions. I think it was beneficial for everybody. This month, we're going to have Mary Ann Dursky, who is from the school board, and Commissioner Hyde also was very instrumental in getting her here, and hopefully she'll be able to fill in some of the blanks that we have as far as TISA is concerned. We've already had a briefing on that, and now that they finalized it, we should be able to understand what that goes, and then later on, hopefully, we'll get one more from William Slater, and that'll be from the lawmaker's point of view. In light of the tragedy that happened at the Covenant School, a lot of concerned parents have emailed and called, and county personnel have emailed and called also for certain items to be bought to harden schools, extra equipment, EMS personnel, training for school personnel and active shooter scenarios, and et cetera. And I know this previous meeting that went on for about an hour and a half, there was a lot of concern as far as that was very evident. The governor has made known a plan, his executive order 97, I think it is, for these items, and it is still in the planning stages. As facts become clear and we know what's going on as far as the state is concerned, they're going to approve and fund and certain things that are necessary, then we will act on what is given to us. Whether that means filling in the gaps or funding, and then we'll have to find out where that funding is going to be coming from. So if there's any other discussion that we would like to have on this, I'll make a motion. If you want to talk about it, if not, we'll just move on. It was exhausted. Okay, there's no report from the county mayor. Is there anything from the school board? Those that are here from the school board. Okay. Dr. Phillips did send the attendance to the members, and so we do have that, months 1 through 7. Next thing we'll do is we're going to look at the resolution here for the director of schools. I'd like to make a motion for discussion. Do I have a second? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay. Now, I did not title this, mainly because I wanted that to be part of the discussion for this meeting tonight. And what I did was I took two separate laws, one dealing with the board, the school board, and the other was the duties and powers of the director of schools. And all we're asking him to do is to show up at these committee meetings or have designated personnel to come. Last sentence there is we request the director of school or his designees be present at all meetings in the future to discuss budgetary matters and have the quarterly financial report prepared for the education committee and the county legislative body. These are things that are spelled out in the law, and we just would like to have him follow the law. So anybody have a title that they would like to put on this resolution? It's your opportunity to shine.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say, I always am hesitant to compare myself to anyone else and what I did, because I may have done everything wrong, I'm not sure, but I always attended the Education Committee meeting. Rarely did I miss, but if I did, Mary Ann Dursky was here to give a report, and she was really officially titled an assistant director of schools. I really think that it's very important. Now, I know we're going through a change in directors of schools, but I think it's highly important. No one can really speak for that person that's sitting in that chair. And I think it's very important for the director, whoever is coming in that's new, to be at our meetings. And you may think that you have no power at all, but you do. You can just say, we're not acting on anything that is sent to us until there's attendance. But I just feel like that it's very important to hear from the head of the school system. And on the other hand, I would hope that the committee would show at times disagreement, but do it in such a way that we don't batter the person that comes and speaks to us. I wouldn't want that to happen. I didn't like it when it happened to me, and it happened plenty of times. But I don't think we should do that. But if we show our concerns, that's perfectly all right. But it's very important, in my opinion, as a commissioner.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. We need to at least hear both sides of the equation, and as far as knowing what we don't know. And I know that there was, at the beginning, whenever we were trying to get through a lot of the budgetary requests that were given to us, we had to understand how they were being done, since we didn't have a lot of the information that was necessary, and we had to look up a lot of things through those codes that are provided by the state, provided by the county, and things like that. So it was a learning curve on our part, and I do agree with Commissioner Hyde on that. I would like to go ahead and just put out, this is a resolution for the director of schools to follow the Tennessee Code annotated. Just leave it as simple as that. If somebody else has any?
I'd like to make a motion to amend your resolution.
Sure.
I hear clearly what Mr. Hyde is indicating, that there is not a person that can sit in the director's seat and come and report. If we put his designees, I don't think we'll get the report that the law is asking us to get. You're not directing who the designee would be, or in what circumstances that would be acceptable. I don't know how we would amend it, but I would like to take that into consideration.
So do you want to strike or his designees, or put and his designees?
I think it's more specific. Is that what you're saying? Needs to be more
Yes.
specific. So either the director of schools or second in command, or however you want to word it, right? So that's what you're saying.
I understand that we all take vacations, and there are times that we can't attend, but I think that we can reflect on the last few months, and that the attendance has been totally void.
Yeah, January,
To
February.
anticipate who is going to become, who's coming to represent that voice. Since we haven't even had that voice at this table, I don't know that leaving the door open for any designee is going to fulfill the requirements of the law.
So-
And maybe we can work on the exact wording for that.
Keep in mind too, though, if you have a director of schools and there's something on this committee's agenda that needs to be addressed, for example, safe schools, then the safe schools designee would need to be here. If the director of schools can't be here for that meeting, might be a budget item, then that's the finance director or the assistant director of schools for finance. So it's always going to be someone different if that person can't be here. So I think if we limit it to just one or two people, then we may be sitting here and not getting an answer from time to time in our committee, which we've done. But I think if we need to be real careful how because it's a huge school system, massive budget, and a lot of designees that are doing a lot of different jobs. Unless somebody's going to come in and micromanage a school system, that's us.
I think, sorry.
I was just gonna make a suggestion. You wanted to title this something very, very general, which is the TCA, follow the TCA. I believe if you required the director to appear and only the director, that opens up the door for him to negotiate why somebody else may need to be there, and y'all can come to some agreement on who needs to attend at that point. But I believe to his point, if you start trying to figure out what the meeting may be in the future, you're never, they're gonna find a way around it. So that's my suggestion.
That's what I was gonna say too, and also, looking at the way this is written, it requires the director to be here. So it could be in addition to finance or safe schools or whoever's on the agenda, but I think that, if I'm reading this right, that's subject to interpretation, but I believe this does require that the director of schools be in attendance.
May I add, I will support that. I think the director of schools should be required. And any accessory, Katie Brown's, or if I don't know if I said your name right.
That's fine.
I always get you confused with Amanda.
Yes.
So, because it's one Monday night a month. And I'm here. And if the law says he should be here, he should be here. He, she, whatever we're gonna get.
Daryl, can you point out where you saw that it said I agree. Let me just start off by saying this is like you said, it's a big school system. There's a lot of different moving parts. There's a lot of budget. I want to make sure we've got the right wording in here. So can you point out where it says he's got to be here? Because all I see is make a written report and be present quarterly and annually, and then report to local legislative body whenever it appears a portion of the school fund has been in danger of being misappropriated or illegal. I don't see where it says you've got to be here every month. And so if that's in the TCA, I'd like to make sure that gets in this resolution.
I think it's right at the top. Each local board of education is authorized to employ a director of schools as provided, then it goes on to say, and the duty of education is assigned to the director of schools the duty to, and then it lays out what his or her duty is as the director.
Right, but where does it say he's got to be here? I guess is what I want to make sure we're including in this, because like I said, it's
Be
written.
present at all quarterly annual settlements for the county trustees, so that's one part where he should be here.
But that's not this.
I'm trying to answer your question, sir. Report to the local legislative body and the commissioner when it appears to be the director at any portion of the school fund has been misappropriated, and then it requires the director of school to prepare a budget, no LEA legislative body, to report to the legislative body. Then I think the director of schools designates to be present at all meetings and future discussion of budgetary matters and have the quarterly financial report prepared for the education committee and the county legislative body. So I think it's plain that what the statute is saying, and then what we're finally being resolved, that we're requiring their presence.
I disagree with that interpretation, but like you said, I mean, I think it's open for interpretation, because it doesn't say to me, you've got to be here. I agree that I think we need to answer some questions. It was very helpful to have Dr. Langford here last month, when we had that. It's been really helpful to have Katie here when we've had questions. I just want to make sure if it specifically lays out to report monthly in person to the county commission or anything like that, that we include that in this resolution.
So, what would we like to put there as far as we request the director of schools or his designees be present at all meetings?
What about and
That's
designate?
what I started saying.
And-
Strike out or his and make and designate, depending on what the topic of the meeting is. He or she can bring whoever they want to.
So, Mr. Sullivan, you want to make a motion on that?
I'd like to make a motion that, last paragraph be it resolved, we request the director of schools and his or her designees, and their designees.
Terry made a motion, so
Oh,
Well, she made a motion to amend it.
to amend.
Yes,
Didn't
and I was
didn't give me
asking for
verbiage.
additional help with the wording, and I appreciate that.
well, I second her motion.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay, motion carries. Okay,
Can I reemphasize something?
yes, sir.
I used to hate coming to this committee.
How you
Why
feel
in the
about it now?
world?
I had some meetings that I thought, oh, it's Monday night again, I've got to go to that education committee meeting. And it can be very unpleasant. We can say no in a nice way, or we can say no in a mean way, but no is no, it's the same thing. So I would just ask that if we do have a county official, or the director of schools, anyone, that we continue to be courteous and considerate of them and not beat them to death. It is intimidating to come before 7 or 8 or 9 people and answer their questions. So
And
just
then
keep
be on
that in
camera.
mind, if you will.
Yeah, and then be on camera while you're doing it. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to new business. All the budget requests are federal grants and require no approval from us. Is there anyone that would like to discuss any of them? Because I do have some questions for Board of Education personnel. Oh,
We need to vote on the resolution as
okay,
amended.
I'm sorry, let's back up there.
And since we're doing that, everything spins on a word. We are doing "and there," correct?
Okay. And the title, was my title sufficient? Resolution to request that the director of schools follow the Tennessee Code annotated and this resolution.
I make a motion, we accept that title.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay, so we're gonna do new business then.
We gotta go back-
We gotta vote on the, as
Original,
amended,
Yeah.
the original as amended.
It now has a title, so now we have to vote on all of it.
Oh, okay. Okay, one more time.
So moved. I'll help you along,
Okay.
maybe.
All those, second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. As I said, I'd like to talk about one of these budget requests, and
Chairman,
if
If I may.
so, I need a motion.
to discuss.
To
I'll make a
discuss.
motion to discuss.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against?
So may I bring up a topic for general discussion for the public? Because it's been asked of me what it means for it to be for information only. And I know that we had a speaker that asked for us to specifically look at some of these items. So I was wondering if the law director could explain what information only means to this committee.
Other than putting some more research into it, it's him using words that the statute references. So he's complying with the law by stating that.
So when we say, when these items come before us, as 10A does, for information only, for the public's benefit, could you state what powers we might have for information only?
The information only is to keep you appraised of what they're gonna do.
And we have no, I know that a citizen spoke and spoke specifically to one of these items, and I just want it clear that we are only informed, we have no
Control.
control.
Do these amendments, is this speaking to the fact that it's amendments within a large category maybe?
I would have to defer that to the director of schools.
Yeah, and we don't have it here, but
Right.
I think they can do that if it's in a large category like administration.
Correct, and then open for discussion, just like the
But if it's
resolution.
transferring between large categories.
Between line items, and then the board has to vote on it, not us. We're the funding source, but once we get to the budget.
If it's within
If
category.
it's within category.
Okay, thank you for that, I did not understand that.
Okay. Now, I know that there's, the means in which we get the money into the county has a lot to do with it. These are straight federal to the county. And that's one reason why we don't have any say-so in it. Okay, Brian?
That's, I was just gonna mention that these were federal funds and therefore they're not.
That's if you look at, the thing that David Lawwing gave us a long time ago when we first got started, we know where the funding comes from, and, these are federal funds. And the one that I have a question about is Budget Amendment 156. Because this is an ESSER grant, and there are, using these ESSER funds for teachers, educational assistants, school pathologists, cafeteria personnel, supervisor, director, computer programmers, custodial personnel salaries and benefits, other supplies, other contracted services, software, for $5,798,579.81. I know, that's a lot of money. I just want to make sure that once the ESSER fund does go away, that we don't, as a county, pick up the tab for that.
That's not something I would be able to speak to as far as that. I was trying to find the page you're referring to, but, I don't oversee the ESSER budget.
Well, that's just a question that I have, because I know that there's a lot of people hired under this or having their salaries paid. I don't know if they were hired or what, but I just want to make sure that we're not on the hook for this, and that the school board's ready to let these people go once the money runs out. Or you find another grant in order to keep them employed. I know that happens a lot too, so even at local school level. Anybody have any other discussion on this?
So that brings back up, Mr. Chairman, if I may, the point that, like you said, back in September and October, when I asked the question of the ESSER funds are being paid into those positions. I believe we have supervisors positions that are coming out of those ESSER funds. So I guess my question would be, or could be, is if the county commission allotted X number of dollars and gave an open check to the school board for X amount of money, and they're using these ESSER funds to pay these instructors, is that on top of or in lieu of the county's funds that we allotted them for that?
On top of.
Then where does that other line item that was the intent to be the salary for that person that the ESSER funds are being substituted, where does that money go?
That's why I wanted to make sure that these extra personnel with these extra funds, once it does expire, and it's going to expire, they're willing to deal with fallout from that. That's my concern. Because these have a time limit on them. It's not like the Perkins grants. It's not the idea or anything. Those are recurring grants, but this is not. This has got a timeline on
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. If the federal government decides the ESSERs are not followed and they come and they claw back, do they claw back from the school budget or just the county general fund?
it. Should be a school budget because the school that funded it. And we didn't have anything to do with it because there's information on it. That was purely school board decision.
They should be able to make them.
Right. They're
We
the
can follow up,
allocators.
perhaps.
I mean, I think we're pretty much held immune to that. What do you think, Mr. Law Director?
This almost becomes a numbers game rather than a legal question. I would have to see some specific cases where you're talking about this.
Well, you got a bunch of them right here. Just one package. Because every one of them, we don't have a say in them whatsoever. We just, again, we're being apprised of what they're spending the money on, and that's about it.
And the biggest concern I'm understanding is the double dipping, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or additional personnel, that kind of thing. This one.
What one of the citizens was talking about the surveys. can I
Well,
mean,
that's an item, but.
oh, it's an item, I'm sorry,
That's
okay, I
on
thought
the
it was
agenda.
part of, okay.
That's
Yep.
next thing.
Gotcha. All right.
So, I guess we've exhausted that one. Next item on the agenda is the school climate surveys directed by Safe Schools Act. This item was added at Commissioner Rogers' request, and I do have a motion for discussion.
So moved.
Okay, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Okay. So I'll go ahead and let Commissioner Rogers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I brought this as not only as a concerned parent, but also a county commissioner. First of all, I'll go ahead and say that I'm sorry I approved the money to put this forward. And I didn't realize at the time that I registered my kids, and my wife and I registered our kids for school, because we like to have the idea that the schools protect our kids, that we don't have to worry about the surveys that they see while they're at school. So I have a kid that's in an elementary school here in the Sumner County schools. A student came home Friday last week and said, "Daddy, I had to take a drug test while I was at school today. My head all but spun off my shoulders." And then I finally got a grasp of what he was talking about. So I was able to find it, and some of the questions in here are rather disturbing. The very first, or the sixth question in the middle school, and I'll try to make this quick, Mr. Chairman, because there's 62 pages of this survey that's composed here. The first one says, "Have you ever had one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage?" Keep in mind this is a 12-year-old student in our county. "How old were you when you first had one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage? In the past 30 days, how many drinks did you have one or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage?" And I thought, maybe. But then it comes down to 5 or more drinks of an alcoholic beverage, 5 or more drinks on the same occasion. Past 30 days, if you had 5 or more drinks. And I thought, well, okay. Times in which we live, all right. But then I go down in question number 14 and on, just keeps getting worse. "Have you ever used prescription drugs not prescribed by you or just to get high?" And then not only it doesn't stop there, it gives my kid examples of what drugs to go look for. And it gives them by name. Percocet, Oxycontin, Vicodin, Codeine, Adderall, Xanax, Klonopin, Benzos, Valiums, Ativan, and Gabapentin. And then it goes further. How old were you when you first used prescription drugs not prescribed to you? And then in the past 30 days, how many prescription drugs have you used? And I thought, well, goodness, maybe. And then it goes on to talk about prescription stimulants. So they're further educating my child. Dexedrine, Adderall, Ritalin, or Concerta. I thought, well, okay, how much worse can this get? And then you keep on scrolling down, question number 21, it starts talking about Oxycontin, morphine, and Demerol. Prescription pain medicine. In the past 30 days, how many days have you used prescription pain medicine? And then we start teaching them about over-the-counter drugs. That's the word, over-the-counter drugs. Cough, cold medicines, diet pills, stay-awake pills, or laxatives. I'll go ahead and finish the sentence. And then it starts talking about cigarettes. How often you smoke a cigarette? Same questions as marijuana. Then it comes down and starts talking about vaping device with nicotine. Then it comes down talking about vaping devices with flavors. Then some more vaping device, smokeless tobacco, marijuana. Let's educate them on marijuana and how old were you when you first used marijuana? So if you're not a cool kid, let's encourage you to go use marijuana. And during the past 30 days, how many days did you use marijuana? Have you vaped marijuana? That's question 48. 49 is vape marijuana. How many times in the last few days? So, Mr. Chairman, I say all that to say this is rather appalling. Then we go into, I mean, it just gets better, folks. THC edibles. So now we're educating them on gummies. And then here's really what got me. Have you ever used methamphetamines? Methamphetamines can be known as crank, meth, blue, ice, or crystal. And then they had the nerve to ask, how old were you when you first used it? During the past 30 days, how many days have you used it? And enter the exact number of days you used in the past 30 days, 0 to 30. And any other illegal drugs, crack, powder cocaine, heroin, inhalants, barbiturates, or steroids. Is this dare or pharmacy school? And then you're talking about cocaine, crack, etc. Inhalants, such as glue, gas, etc. Hallucinogens, heroin, steroids, 12 years old. 12 years old. We're not done yet. We did this during ELA class. Ecstasy, alcohol, tobacco products, vaping devices, marijuana, prescription drugs. How easy would it be to get to? But we're not worried about what goes on inside people's houses. Very difficult, fairly easy, very easy, or don't know. During the past 30 days, if you used alcohol, where did you get it? If you bought or tried alcohol yourself in the past 30 days, were you ever able to show proof of age? And then it keeps going, and it keeps going, and it keeps going. Mr. Chairman, the reason I brought this is not only one, it upsets me that this is done during an English language arts class. Two, it's hidden in 537 pieces of paperwork that we have to sign on registration night. Three, a law enforcement officer can't even ask these questions without an adult. So how does every kid in our schools show reasonable suspicion that we have to ask these questions? This goes well above and beyond the scope of education. I think if we really got back down to reading, writing, and arithmetic, we would see our test scores go up. I think this is well beyond the intent of what we need to focus on in our schools. Citizens, I'm on the record to tell you, I'm sorry I voted for it. Shame on me, but not again. Not again.
Are you finished?
Yeah.
I opted my children out of any surveys because I had a teacher that was a good friend and said, you probably want to opt your kids out of these surveys years ago. So because I opted my children out of these surveys, my children were basically punished. They were taken to a room of isolation and they had to write because they didn't do the surveys. These surveys have appalled me from day one. Thankfully, I knew to opt them out. I know you found that survey, but if you keep searching, there's surveys about very, very personal things as well. They ask them about touching themselves, masturbation, sex. It goes on and on. It doesn't end. It's disgusting. I'm glad I opted my children out, and I don't know what the heck this has to do with teaching our kids anything. I think it's extremely invasive, and I don't know what we need to do, but we need to get that crap out of our schools. And that's my
I know whenever I was a teacher, I had to fill out a lot. I noticed how much more is focused on drugs now. It used to be, do you feel safe in your school? Do you see,
They do that in
authority figures?
elementary now. That's
that
at
kind of
elementary
thing.
level.
But this has gotten definitely very invasive. They need to revise this some way. Because it's just a little beyond the pale of somebody that's in the 5th, 6th, and 7th grade.
You know, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I tried to be mindful, I guess, of all the other students in this county. But even still, I can't imagine that if an SRO officer or an officer on the road on patrol comes in contact with a juvenile, and this juvenile may be under the influence of something, there's certain things that officer has to do before he or she can go meddling and question this kid. But it's okay for our schools. I get it, shame on me, because we probably didn't read the waiver, and that's where we gave them authority to do that. However, I've wised up and taken that away. So I guess I brought this to have some public awareness for those kids that are in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. This is what they're being asked. And I don't agree with it.
I guess this is where we need to talk to our state representatives and senators and let them know that this is something that is not acceptable. It needs to be revised and get back to safe schools and not personally invasive questioning.
Who writes these? Do you know?
I don't know.
May we ask?
True.
Can we suspend the rules?
Yes,
Oh, let's see.
this survey was developed by, it's called EMT, and it is an evaluation company that administers it for us. I was trying to find what EMT stands for. Education Management and Training. I'm sorry, Evaluation Management and Training. That's who administers the survey for us. The survey is actually developed by them with the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services and the Department of Education. So it's a joint survey that comes out of all those.
And then who compiles it?
EMT does, because it's a digital survey, and so that goes to them, and then we get the reports back. And it's, that was your question.
Okay. Was that?
Hmm?
Was that?
Oh, yeah. You commented in saying that we need to tell our state legislators about this. Well, right now, I brought this to state legislators, and HB 1411 addresses this. And it makes it so it's opt-in. You have to opt in, because right now, your kids are automatically opted in. And so this is addressing that. HB 1411 goes before the Education Administration on Wednesday, just so you know.
Perfect timing, thank you.
Yes.
I was answering your question, I didn't know if I could speak. You mentioned that your elementary child came home and talked about taking a drug test.
My middle school child.
Okay, you said elementary, and I wanted to dispel that there are 0 questions about substance use on an elementary survey. And that the average age of first experimentation is 13. And so when we ask these questions of 12-year-olds, we're making sure that that it hasn't gone younger. And so they, unfortunately, thankfully, your child may not be, but unfortunately they are experimenting and they do have access to these things. If a child doesn't know what it is, then they don't know what it is. There's no conversation around this. They don't recognize the word, they move on from it. And so it's, as far as like the law enforcement questioning, these are not incriminating questions because it's not identifiable. There's no way that we're not saying like Katie said she gets high every day. It's anonymous entirely. So that's why we can ask those without it being part of suspicion or anything like that.
I have a question. These are not paper. These are done on a digital device.
They are now.
Google
And
Classroom.
there's no way that can be tracked.
Sure.
No, I mean, they're on a school-issued device. It's not on their own
Which is in the
device.
Google Classroom.
No, it's not, they don't go through that link. They don't have to sign in to be able to access the survey.
Okay.
Have to or they don't?
They don't. The link is not a part of their, like, we used to actually do this through our own Google links, and they did log in, and it was a part of their sort of like a questionnaire, almost like an assignment. But we still only got just the data on the back side of that. But now it's administered administered by this agency who takes that and aggregates it, and they're a national agency that does this type of thing. And so it's protected and guarded, it's only ever seen in aggregate. I was telling somebody earlier that we used to have, when we administered it ourselves, there was a free answer place where they could say what they wanted, and sometimes they would identify themselves during that piece, but we still couldn't link it back to the rest of the questions.
What is the, how often are these surveyed, like, what is the plus or minus rate? How true are the answers? I raised four boys.
Sure.
So, my boys go to school, they're mad at mom and daddy.
Oh, there's nothing, I mean, what are they saying about you that would be?
No.
I don't understand. I don't understand. Okay, that's fine, but when, you know, so many students, it averages out.
Okay, let's go ahead.
May I ask another question? Can you tell us how much we spend on these surveys? What's the line item?
It used to be $0 when we administer them ourselves, but because we're using this agency, it's $2,200.
It's for the whole county?
Yes, sir. Annually.
And how long does it take out of the student's time to take that survey?
10, 15 minutes.
It's time.
It's only once a year.
It took.
And the schools, it varies on the school and how long they, or when they administer, whether it's an ELA class or science class or.
No, not anymore.
How they administer.
So they did 91 questions in 10 minutes.
I mean, 10 to 15 minutes.
It took me 15 minutes to read it, and I read 40 pages an hour.
Well, I remember as a teacher, it took home period. That was 45, 55 minutes, wasn't all long.
It's
Mr. Chairman,
113.
Can I ask an audience member a question? Ms. Daniels, you said that was 1411, and if we agree with that, how would you, so we just, you said it's going to Wednesday, so we need to contact our legislator. I want to give you this public forum for the people that are watching to say, hey, this is how you need to get behind this. Just contact your legislator.
Yeah, so your legislators for HB 1411, and what it does is it allows, right now, all your children are automatically opted into every survey and everything. What this is doing is it will change it so that Tennessee Code 496, 1503 and 1308, I think it is. I'm so sorry, didn't memorize those. But so anyways, what it does is it makes it so that you have to opt in to the surveys instead of your child automatically being opted in. So you no longer would have to
Sign them out.
sign them out. You actually have to sign them in now.
Is there a Senate version as well, or just a House version right now?
It is 1711 bowling.
Okay.
So it's Fritz, House, and Bowling, Senate.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
No problem.
Any other discussion? Okay. The last item that we have here, copy release for the Board of Education Administration Department. I didn't see that in our package.
No.
Is there?
Did we do one last month?
Well, there was one last month and it never.
It wasn't, I
Different
don't think
department?
it wasn't transportation.
Mr.
It wasn't
Hott.
transportation.
Who's Mr. Hott? What?
Hot?
Yeah, okay, that was the one.
That was for last month,
I
yeah.
remember.
I think we need more information on that.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, we need, yeah, just if you go back and tell them we need some action work on this. Copy release for the Board of Education Transportation Department. We just didn't get anything. So just let them know that before we can act on it, we have to know what we're acting on. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Job well done, sir.